Dawson's Rentals.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Ryder here. This is going to be a discussion video on everybody's favorite Ranger, Tommy Oliver. But this is sort of a companion video. This should be coming out not too long after, hopefully the day after I did my Dimensions in Danger review for my retro review series, because when it comes to that team out, there's always a lot of talk about there being too much Tommy oversaturation, and I didn't want to bog down my review with discussing that too much, though I did discuss it, so I thought this warranted its own video, which is Tommy too oversaturated in the franchise? And I feel like that's a matter of, in a way, a subjective opinion. A little bit objectively, yes. Just like mmpr is, in general, mmpr, and in particular Tommy, is at the forefront. Like, I can't objectively deny that, especially the mmpr aspect, because I would say that just the image of the Red Ranger and then the Green Ranger are the two most popular things in the franchise, the most recognizable. So that's to be sure. And I think there are things that make it seem like Tommy's more oversaturated than he is. But first, let's talk about why he's so popular. Because green, yeah! Honestly, when you think back to it, it's easy to see why. I mean, every franchise has its overrated character or episode or movie or whatever. But for the Green Ranger, you can see why it was exciting at the time. You know, when Power Rangers first came out, and it was a new property, we only knew some certain things for sure about them. There's 5 of these guys, they come in these colors, and they're the good guys. The Green Ranger comes in and he smashes all that away. He's a totally different color, he's not a good guy, and he's got a cool armor and a cool Zord. Not to mention it was the first and really only storyline in the first season of MMPR, other than just the general setup story. And then the character became popular, he goes on to become the White Ranger, a big face of the franchise for years. He leads the team as Red, and I said Black, well later, but I mean Red and then Red again from Turbo, and then he comes back for Dino Thunder. He was on the show the longest, he was very popular, so he had a long time to become popular, and kind of the face of that original, you know, original cast Zordon era in a way. So like, it's obvious why he was so popular at the time. But in recent years, you know, people think he's become oversaturated, and I think there's 2 reasons for that. I mean, he has come back more than a lot of people. I mean, he came back for Forever Red, like a lot of other people did, but he definitely got a little more of a focus. He did come back as a series regular, mostly, for Dino Thunder, which at the time, I almost never really count that or think about it when it comes to Tommy overhype, because that was such an outlier at the time. Like, that was so exciting and cool, because it was before everyone went crossover and team up mad. And it was just kind of cool for the time. But he did come back for those 2 things. But if you set aside, I mentioned this in the crossover review, if you set aside Dino Thunder, he really only came back for Forever Red and Legendary Battle before Dimensions in Danger. And yes, that's 3, that's more than some others have gotten. But just speaking of people complaining about Dimensions in Danger before it happened, like Forever Red, he did get a little bit more of a focal point. But most of the veteran Rangers, like Jason and stuff, the older ones, did. And as I mentioned in that review, if you saw that video, I'm sorry, I'm going to repeat myself, but in Legendary Battle, it's not like he did that much. Like, yeah, he was front and center, he got a little bit more than the other Rangers, but all the Rangers barely got any speaking roles. He didn't get that much more than the other guys. He maybe got like 0.1, 0.2% more. And even though JDF is kind of the prime expected candidate to come back, whoever came back for MMPR was almost guaranteed to be the one leading the charge and get the most lines. So it just makes sense to me. But it's not like Legendary Battle was the Tommy show. But Dimensions in Danger definitely was, and I can see, since he kind of came back for every milestone, why people wanted something different. But I think if you're just looking at the show, and setting aside that Dino Thunder was kind of a special case, it's not as bad as people think. And I think that there's 2 things, in my opinion, again, this could just be because people are tired of him in the show, but I think 2 things that I give a little bit more of an illusion of him being more oversaturated are JDF himself and Lord Drakken. I mean, ever since Power Rangers has hit that nostalgia popularity and the conventions have come back, JDF is absolutely out there front and center with his, you know, green, yeah, fitness year 20 forever, you know, always big at the conventions, drawing the big crowds, talking about the brand, campaigning for a Wolverine Green Ranger movie. I think that he really keeps Tommy in your face even more than the show does. I mean, yeah, the merchandising does for sure, and like I said, I think objectively Tommy is up there more, but I don't think it's ridiculous levels on its own, but because JDF's always out there keeping Tommy's brand out there so much and bringing him up so much and wanting to bring him back so much, I don't think that helps. That's just the way it feels for me when I really thought about it. Like, when I boiled it down, I'm like, yeah, he's come back a lot, but it's not that bad if I take away how much JDF just keeps Tommy in your face. Tommy, you're 20 forever, yeah! And then there's Lord Drakken, because that's a common complaint I see about the comics from some people that don't want to get into them at all because they think they're Tommy saturated, some people that like them but are tired of Tommy focus. I think in particular because Lord Drakken is such a huge figure, because he was like the first real deal story in the comics that was like outside the box, and then he was the focus of Shattered Grid, and then they recently brought him back again. And even though I'm enjoying that, I myself even, as a Lord Drakken fan, was like, yeah, this is too soon. So that's the thing though, is that it's kind of, this is weird to say, because Drakken is Tommy, but it's more of a Drakken focus than a Tommy focus. I guess a lot of people wouldn't separate that, because I was thinking about it and I'm like, you know, other than when he got stabbed, regular Tommy is kind of low-key boring and in the background in the main comic. Like, there were some cool bits with him. I like when they did the White Ranger origin stories, but ever since the Omegas and stuff have happened, he's felt kind of basic and in the background. So again, Drakken is Tommy, so I can see how it adds to the Tommy oversaturation for a lot of people. But I was thinking about Tommy proper. I'm like, other than them putting White Ranger out there, just it doesn't feel like regular Tommy has that big of a presence in the comic just as a character, but Lord Drakken definitely does. But I think it's because of that and then continually going back to that well that it seems like Tommy's oversaturated. So I can definitely see that. But I can separate it in my mind a little bit in a way just because Drakken's different, although I definitely agree that I think it was just too soon. Even though, again, I'm liking the character stuff. I'm like torn because I am liking the stuff they're doing in the Power Rangers comic, but at the same time, I thought it was too soon. I knew they were going to bring back Drakken. I even wanted it, but just not that soon. But I think my main summation of this rambly video, that's why I call it rambles, is that in terms of Tommy saturation, I do think there is a little bit, but I think it just goes hand in hand with the mmpr stuff, and I think JDF's Tommy marketing and Drakken have made it seem more than it is, even though it's there, because I personally would argue that it's just on the same level of other franchises pushing their nostalgia brands, but it's all that stuff combined that kind of makes it seem like it's more than it is. That's just for me personally, and I would like to see some other Rangers get some focus, but I think the main reason I wanted to make it is just to kind of draw attention to that sort of outside factors make it seem a little bit more. And then I feel, as I mentioned in my review video, I think people that hate Tommy or don't want to see more of him complaining about it have gotten more annoying than him actually coming back. And I just don't like to see, I see Tommy fans be afraid to be Tommy fans, or, you know, them get attacked for being Tommy fans. Like, I just don't like to see that. Like, it'll make me mad when someone's like, oh, I really like Tommy, and they're like, you shouldn't, he's returned a million times, I hate him, blah, and it's like, yeah, he's a little oversaturated, but just think about it, it's not that bad, and there's no reason that you shouldn't like it or stop other people from liking it. But what do you guys think about Tommy's presence in the franchise? Do you think it's just because of Drakken and JDF's Tommy promotion, or do you think it's just because of the show that he's oversaturated? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe, climb the steps, and ring that bell to get my videos. Awesome Writer, signing out.